Welcome to our video on relativism, a major theme in philosophy and metaethics. In this presentation, we'll look at what relativism is, how it's structured, the different types of relativism, and the major arguments both for and against it. Finally, we'll reflect on why relativism matters for the study of ethics. All of the content we cover today comes directly from Paul Kleinman's Philosophy 101. What is relativism? Relativism is not a single doctrine, but rather a family of views that share certain themes. According to Kleinman, the two central ideas are that thought, experience, or reality is always relative to something else, and that no single standpoint is inherently privileged over another. Relativistic arguments often sound very persuasive when presented in abstract form, but they tend to become problematic or even trivial when applied to actual situations. For this reason, few philosophers defend relativism directly, but it remains important because many influential thinkers have been associated with it. The structure of relativism. Kleinman presents relativism in a simple formula. Y is relative to X. The dependent variable, Y, could be truth, ethics, reality, or even human perception. The independent variable, X, might be culture, language, religion, or historical period. The phrase is relative to names the mode of connection between the two. This structure helps us to understand how relativism applies across different areas of human thought. And for those of you in my classes, we have this diagram of the structure of relativism, and then the other diagram posted on our class website. Types of relativism. Kleinman distinguishes between two main types of relativism: descriptive relativism and normative relativism. Descriptive relativism simply observes that different cultures have different moral codes. It is an observational claim, often associated more with anthropology than with ethics. Normative relativism, by contrast, makes a stronger claim. It argues that people ought to follow the moral code of their own society. From this perspective, no moral code is better or worse than another, and tolerance of other cultures' codes is required. Matters of degree. Not all beliefs carry the same weight. Some are central beliefs, so essential that abandoning them would cause many other beliefs to collapse. For example, the conviction that physical objects continue to exist when we are not perceiving them is a central belief. By contrast, the belief in the divine right of kings is non-central and easier to abandon. Relativism can also be local, applying to only certain domains, or global, extending across the whole of human experience. Both centrality and scope are matters of degree. Arguments for relativism. Supporters of relativism often point to the idea that perception is theory-laden. What we see depends in part on what we already believe. Kleinman, citing Hansen, gives the example of two astronomers observing a sunrise. Tycho Brahe, who supported a geocentric model, saw the sun moving around the Earth. Johannes Kepler, who supported a heliocentric system, interpreted the same event as the Earth rotating while the sun remained still. They observed the same phenomenon, but because of their different theoretical frameworks, they perceived it differently. This supports the relativist view that perception is shaped by prior beliefs. Another argument emphasizes that alternative frameworks may be incommensurable. If language, culture, and concepts differ enough, genuine communication between groups may become impossible. Arguments against relativism. Kleinman also presents several important criticisms of relativism. Against descriptive relativism, Quine argued that if there are no facts, then there can be no differing beliefs about those facts either. Other critics point out that perception is not entirely theory-laden. Even if people interpret events differently, they still share basic experiences, such as seeing the sun rise. Evidence of cognitive universals across humanity also challenges the idea that all concepts are relative. Against normative relativism, critics raise deeper philosophical problems. One is the mediation problem. If beliefs are always trapped within conceptual frameworks, then it is impossible to compare them to reality. Another criticism is that when we try to imagine radically different systems of thought, what we end up with is unintelligibility rather than meaningful alternatives. Finally, Kant's transcendental arguments suggest that certain categories, such as objects, causation, and property, must exist for us to have any experience at all. To conclude, relativism highlights the diversity of human thought and challenges the idea that there are universal moral principles. Its critics, however, argue that shared concepts and universal categories make human communication and morality possible. As Paul Kleinman notes, the debate between relativism and universalism goes to the very heart of metaethics. It forces us to ask, are our beliefs always relative to culture and context, or are there truths that hold across all societies? That's all for now. If you're interested in more videos on philosophy, ethics, and metaethics, check out the videos posted on our channel. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.